Welcome to Priceless Takes.
And we are live from the Gold Coast, Australia. Welcome back, everyone, to Priceless Takes, episode 74. First time in a while, but we are back just before a big NBA playoff push. Joining me, as always, my favourite people to talk basketball with, Tyson, Oscar, and Ruben. Fellas, how are we doing today?
Good, thank you. Very well.
Yeah, doing well.
Listen, I've been getting a lot of people asking me about episodes. Sorry it has taken so long. There's been a lot going on. For one, your host, myself, got a concussion, which definitely did not help in terms of recording episodes. But we are here now. That is the main thing. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. First episode, post-Doncic trade, where we've actually seen him play. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the rest of the Western Conference and who are the biggest challenges to Oklahoma City. We're also going to talk about the Eastern Conference, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun at the end and talk about some March Madness, because I've had a few people asking me for some March Madness thoughts as well. But guys, we are going to get started because it is heating up in the Wild Wild West, except for the Oklahoma City Thunder, who sit 13 and a half games clear of the 1 seed. But 2 through 8, there is only a 6.5 game difference. And if you look at it closer, 3 through 8, there's a 4.5 game difference with around 7 and 8 games to go. There is a lot of movement that could be happening right now. As the standings are, Houston sits at 2, Denver at 3, Lakers at 4, Memphis at 5, the Warriors at 6, Minnesota at 7, and the Clippers sneaking in there in the 8th seed, which I know none of you expected that to happen. The real talk here, guys, is when you look at the seeding here, between really 4 and 8, realistically, there's 3 games left. And when you look at the games that these teams have, the Lakers, in their 4 of their last 8, have Oklahoma City twice and Houston twice. And you look at a team like Minnesota, who is sneaky dangerous. They have 3 playoff teams left in their last 7. Denver, Milwaukee, and Memphis, which aren't some of the strongest playoff teams. But Oscar, I'm going to ask you first. Out of these teams here, which team do you think could fall into the play-in race with this strength of schedule and with the other teams on the rise?
I think, and Tyson's not going to like this, I think the Lakers, there is a chance that the Lakers could drop dramatically in the next couple weeks.
As far as 7 and 8?
I reckon they could drop to 7. I think
Wow.
Minnesota's going to go up into the playoffs. I think their schedule's easy enough that they can do that. They won today by pretty convincingly.
20, yeah.
And they're looking pretty scary. I don't think the Clippers is going to go in there, but I think the Lakers could drop. I think the Grizzlies could drop. I don't think the Warriors are going to drop. They look, I think they're sneaky good as well, and they're actually going to push up. So I think the Lakers, there's a chance that they'll drop, and the Grizzlies, there's a chance that they will drop for the Timberwolves. I think the Clippers are staying put, Luka.
Well, the Timberwolves have won 12 out of their last 15. So they are a team, when you look at it, are getting hot at the right time. Tyson, what are your thoughts on your Lakers potentially falling down? They have had a bit of a slow run in the last few games. They started off well, but they're 2-4 since a LeBron injury, and they're 5 and 8 overall.
Lost to the Bulls
after
twice.
They
That's
did
not what
lose
you
to the
wanna
Bulls
do.
twice, albeit one of them an incredible game winner from our fellow countryman Josh Giddey. But what are your thoughts, T?
Look, definitely not what you want to see when you think all your starters are coming back, fresh off injuries. It's been a good rest period. Doncic and AR held their own for the meantime, and then when they come back, they lose. It's not a really welcoming feeling, but I don't think much of it. I'm not going to lie, like with the remaining games left. Obviously, it was ranked second hardest schedule, like I said. I think Houston have the first. I think they'll be fine for the moment, but with Oscar, I agree. Memphis is going to drop. Clippers, I think, is going to stay out. Warriors and Minnesota are the two hotheads at the moment in my eyes, or evident as well. But they're going to keep going up. But Memphis for sure, definitely going to drop. But I think Lakers will still remain around 4 or 5.
So, Tyson, I want to sort of get your thoughts as well, and Ruben, I want you to chime in as well. Currently, first round playoff as it sits, Lakers and Grizzlies in the 4-5 spot. T, how do you like the Lakers in a series against Memphis?
Oh, love it. Honestly,
I don't agree with that.
Go on,
I
Ruben.
love it.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I thought 2 seasons ago when we played off, it was AD that was a standout player, but they're lacking that size against Memphis, and we've got some big bodies the Lakers are going to deal with, and I don't know if they're going to be able to deal with it. I think
was gonna
Memphis
say
still have the
Lakers
slight
four.
edge, but I'm a bit worried about Taylor Jenkins losing his job so late into the season and making all these adjustments now. I don't know if I would have done it now, especially being so close to the playoffs, but we'll have to see how it goes. I would still pick Memphis, though.
You would pick Memphis in a series right now, Ruben. Really?
Yes, I would. I would pick Memphis right now. The Lakers have been shaky the last couple of games.
The Lakers have been making some crucial mistakes down the stretch in
agreed.
silly
Not gonna
mistakes. You know,
ignore
you
it.
got LeBron turning the ball over, 3-4 times in the last couple minutes of the game, losing them the game. You don't see that we haven't really seen that from LeBron all year. So I don't know. Coming back from injury, they've been looking shaky at best. So I don't love the matchup with the Grizzlies, but I think the Lakers, they're not going out and they're not going out in round one.
So, Oscar, if you're the Lakers then, and you're looking at these teams, like realistically, who do you want to verse in round one if you're the Lakers?
Probably out of all these teams, the Grizzlies.
Okay.
Still, I mean, I don't want to verse the Warriors in the playoffs with Jimmy and Curry.
They are 3-0 against the Warriors this season, but they were all pre-Jimmy Butler trade, I will add.
And then adding to Jimmy in the playoffs turns into a bloody animal.
You still think he's got it in him?
Yeah, of course. They've been looking much better with them both on the team. Even when they aren't performing, the people around them are performing, pretty well. Was it yesterday or was it today that they won? And it was today that they won, and pods went crazy, and they didn't do much. So I think the Warriors are going to be a scary playoff team for anyone that versus them in the first round.
I'm just really worried about Steph's health. He's been very in and out of injuries, and I don't think with Jimmy's age, I think you need Steph there, really. 'Cause I don't think you get the best out of Draymond without Steph, if I'm being completely honest.
The thing is that Steph knows. I think Steph knows that he doesn't have a long time left, and this playoffs with Jimmy Butler, you have an aging team. He's going to put it all on for this year, I think. So I think the Warriors are going to be a scary first round team.
I was just gonna say, you mentioned playoff. Like, is he gonna do it in the playoffs? Jimmy Butler. You say he's a playoff demon. I was gonna just say, who are two guys that are notoriously known for turning up in the playoffs? I'll give you a hint. They're on the same team. I'll give you a hint. They're on the same team. I'll give you a hint.
No, I'm just saying. Out of all those teams, I wouldn't want to verse the Warriors. And obviously,
I told you that as well. I said that.
Out of
we were talking. Yeah,
out of
I said
5,
that.
6, 7, 8, I wouldn't want to verse the Warriors.
But Memphis, that's barbecue chicken. I'd say Lakers 4. Like, honestly, I was legit, genuinely thinking Lakers 4, maybe 5. But
Lakers are fine.
Listen, Ruben, I hate to agree with Tyson, but when it comes down to a series with Memphis, to me, I think it's really, our three best players absolutely dominate your three best players, particularly the way that Austin Reeves has been playing right now. He has been playing some seriously good basketball since the Doncic trade. He has been elevated massively. I think he might be able to get into another gear in the playoffs, but I feel like we already saw that 2 years ago, and it wasn't enough. I don't think that Bane, Triple J, and have improved significantly. If anything, you can make a case that they've actually gotten worse since they versed the Lakers in the playoffs some seasons ago. And now the Lakers have Doncic, they have Austin Reeves playing the best that he's ever played, and all they really need is a bit of production off the bench. And we've seen on any given night, it's usually Finney Smith or Vincent, and on the odd night, even Jordan Goodwin can somehow do something, except for when they're playing the Celtics. But apart from that, like the Lakers, they are playing some seriously good basketball despite their shortcomings recently, Ruben. And the one thing I would give you is the coaching edge, because Taylor Jenkins is an experienced coach, but you've lost that too. So I think it's just really unfortunate timing with the whole Taylor Jenkins thing. I think we're going to find out soon what exactly happened with that. I saw on social media that he was fired in person. Like it seemed like something was very sudden, probably maybe even a HR issue we don't know about. But Ruben, basketball-wise, what do you actually see the Grizzlies as having an edge over the Lakers with?
I don't know. Like, I've seen, like, even without Jar's been out for a long time. The Grizzlies have stayed. You are all laughing, but the Grizzlies
We're only
are going to
laughing because
step
you
up
said,
against the
I
Lakers.
don't know. That's the only reason we're laughing.
Well, we're going to have vengeance against the Lakers. We are resentful against the Lakers. Constantly have been owning us over the last couple of seasons, but we're going to be stepping up to the occasion, and we're going to beat this fraudulent Lakers team, even without AD. They will miss AD when they have to come up against Triple J. And people forget as well, we've got Zach Edey and Jalen Wells who've been having impressive seasons, being able to replace Steven Adams and Tyus Jones. I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people think.
So what you're saying is you've got a bunch of inexperience on a team against a team that has Luka Doncic and LeBron James.
I would still say they're molding together, though, and there have been vulnerabilities, especially in the last couple of games. I don't think it's a guaranteed Lakers win over Memphis. And this unit has been together for a long time.
How did those vulnerabilities go 2 nights ago when they played? Can I ask, Rubes? In Memphis?
Well, look, Jar's only just coming back from injury. That's what I would say. So I think once Jar finds his groove again, which he will by the time playoffs come around, I think they'll be fine against the Lakers.
But when you've got LeBron and Luka getting 25 plus points and then AR dropping 30 as well. Like, yeah, there are vulnerabilities, but this offense is just ridiculous. These guys' numbers can just be ridiculous, and especially in the playoffs, they are going to be. When Luka is dropping 30, LeBron's dropping 25, and AR is dropping 20 plus as well. It's going to be such a hard onslaught to, offensively from them to. They are a good defensive team, but I just don't see the Grizzlies winning against the Lakers.
I just don't know in the playoffs. They combined the other day your big three, so-called big three, for 75 points. I don't know if you're going to get more than that in the playoffs. Like, Ja had a nearly triple-double, 22, 8, and 10. Like, I don't know how much more you're getting out of those players in the playoffs. Like, Edey played well, like 14 and 11. Like, that's solid. But I just don't see where the big difference is going to be for you in this series when you look at the Lakers having a lot of difference makers, particularly when you look at Doncic last year. He dropped 20 points in a quarter in the conference finals. He did that again this year in a number of games. We've seen him do it. I'm interested to see how it goes, Ruse, but I do want to move on because there's a team we're not talking about here, and that's the Nuggets. And that's what I think is the most interesting thing when it comes to these Western Conference standings. It kind of, to me, seems like you either want to be in the 4-5 line and hopefully get the Grizzlies, but then you don't really want to be in the 6 because then you get Denver. But then if you risk getting in the play-in and you're in the 7, you might get Houston. And I feel like that's a better result than getting Denver, which is what I want to know, sort of, where do you see that sort of balance between if you're the Warriors and you're half a game back of the Timberwolves, right? Do you risk getting into the play-in and have a playoff matchup with Houston? Or then you risk potentially losing to the Clippers, who are 3-0 against you this season, which is the facts of the situation. So where do you go, Oscar, if you want to verse Denver or if you want to go the play-in route and try verse Houston, which would ultimately probably see you verse Denver in the second round anyway, if we're being honest?
I'd want to stay away from Denver as much as possible if I'm any of these teams. They are looking really good, and obviously Jokic is still being his good old freak self. So you probably want to be. You're going to end up versing them if you get through the first round anyway. But you're probably going to want to be 4-5, so you at least get a crack at winning a series and then versing them instead of just getting blown out in the first round.
Well, if you're in the 4-5 line, you're probably going to avoid Denver. That's when you probably will verse OKC. It's more, it's the 2-3 line, really. Because looking at it now, if we think the Lakers are going to slump because they have those 2 games against Houston, 2 games against Oklahoma City, then the next team there is Memphis, and Denver's 2.5 games better than Memphis. So it kind of looks like Denver, they could maybe move up to the 2, but Denver still has 5 of 7 games against playoff teams, and Houston, as you mentioned, has 6 of 7 games against playoff teams that have the hardest schedule remaining.
I mean, it's probably a blessing in disguise for the Rockets if they do lose a couple games and fall a little bit, so they don't have to verse the Nuggets
In the second round, potentially.
Yeah, in the second round.
See, I'm assuming, well, personally for me, I would give the Clippers a great chance of beating the Rockets in a round one playoff series, but I don't see them getting past Minnesota in the 7-8 playoff game. I would heavily take Minnesota over Houston in a round one playoff series. I don't know if anyone wants to disagree with that. I like what Houston's doing this season. I think it's a good story. I still think they're a player away, but defensively they're locking in. But Minnesota seems to be quietly peaking at the right time, and we know what Anthony Edwards brings to the table in the playoffs. And I dare to say it, but somehow they've figured out a way to win with Julius Randle, which I still have question marks if that's possible come postseason time. But it seems like they're doing it now. Do you think Minnesota could go on a sneaky little run, Ruben?
Of course, I had them winning, well, in the conference finals at the start of the season. They've got a lot of star power, and I think if they can stay the 7 seed, play against an inexperienced Houston Rockets, I think they've got a really good shot at making a good run. Like you said, they've got Anthony Edwards as a closer. Julius Randle's finally starting to mold into the Timberwolves team. They've got Dante as well. Like, he come off the bench. I think they've got a very good chance to make a good run. It's highly competitive. Houston are lucky because they've got, like Oscar said, a nice stretch, like a nice separation where they'll probably stay second seed. They won't get into the mixture of Lakers, Memphis. But like looking at Minnesota, I think they've got a good chance of making a really good run.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. I was kudos to the Wolves for finally fixing things together because I thought they were on the verge of just death, like just going down and down and down. But I was talking to a devoted Houston Rockets fan named Charlie Sparks, and I said, if I was you, I would be, can't say that, pooing my pants if I'm matching up against Clippers, Warriors, or Minnesota in the first round. And because I said they'd just be an easy first round beat. And and I think if I was Clippers, Minnesota, matching up against Houston, that's barbecue chicken again.
Hey, well, listen, if talking about the Clippers, Kawhi's averaging 25, 7, and 4 in his last 10 games, all right? So, look, the Clippers, I think, is sneaky dangerous. I don't think they're sneaky dangerous if they verse the Thunder. I think the Thunder will still kill them in round one. But I think the Clippers, I would nearly honestly take them in a series over the Rockets, particularly when you look at James Harden versus his old ball club. I think he'll have something to prove with the way that ended. The Clippers, as good as Houston are defensively, the Clippers also have a top 3 defense in the NBA this season. Like, let's not forget about that either. And now with Kawhi coming back, Harden maybe with something to prove, that definitely could be something which I would love to rub in all of your faces, but I guess we'll have to see how that works. I do want to transition to the Lakers, though, because a lot of people, including myself, post Doncic, have given them a really, really strong chance to actually make some proper noise in these playoffs. There was one point for you gambling addicts out there. When they first made the trade, they were $23. They're firmed up at around $17 now, which I think is still fantastic odds, because if I'm really looking at it, and this last stretch of games has made me think a little bit differently, but not too much. For the last sort of 3 weeks, I've really been of the belief that I think it's the Lakers or Oklahoma City's conference to lose, if I'm being completely honest. I want to know, really, Oscar, from you, what chance do you actually give the Lakers to make the finals, and how do you think, in terms of seeding, that pathway goes, in terms of would they want to verse OKC in round 2 or in the conference finals or vice versa?
I mean, I've got them a pretty good chance of getting through to the conference finals. I just think the Thunder are way too above everyone else in the West right now. They've lost 5 home games all season. They've lost, seven away games this season or something like that, and so they don't lose. They obviously don't lose very often. But one thing I will say is that the Lakers against the Nuggets, if that comes around, the Nuggets have kind of been like the Lakers stoppers in the past couple of years. This year, obviously, with Luka Doncic, a complete X factor, a complete change of their whole dynamic. Now they've got this X factor. They can, as you said, really make a lot of noise in this playoffs. But yeah, I probably would want to verse the Thunder as late as possible, I think, in the conference finals, because then you get some playoff experience under your belt, obviously with their more inexperienced guys, and then verse the Thunder as late as possible, I think is what they will want to do.
I don't know. Like, I have liked. There's a lot of good things since this post Luka Doncic trade, and it is very competitive. But I do agree with Oscar. There is just a massive separation between the Thunder and the rest of the West, and for that reason, like especially they're playing them in the second round, I don't give Lakers much of a chance. I think pretty much everyone else they'll have a very good shot against, but I think OKC is just on another level, especially like Oscar said, 7 losses away. OKC are just a formidable team in the West, and I still think it'll be an OKC Celtics final.
I give Lakers a pretty high chance to make finals, obviously. But
Well, you picked them to make the finals, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. That was my matchup. Lakers and Thunder. That was my matchup for the Western Conference Finals. But no, obviously, if they're 4-5, they're gonna verse them second round.
Yeah.
Verse them second round. So I don't know. It's a bit interesting there to see how the seeding will go. But matching up, like you mentioned, home records. Lakers also do. I know the Thunder are different, but the Lakers do have the third best home record as well. Like they're
so
pretty good
bad
at home as
away.
well.
They're so bad away.
Luckily, we don't have to. We don't worry about that.
In a playoff series, I think like things like record on the road matter a lot less. I think there's things that get elevated in the playoffs. I think things that sort of minimize in the playoffs. I think that when you're focused in on one team for a whole series, I think you get used to, particularly if you're in a series where maybe you win all your home games, and then at that point you only need to grab one game on the road. Like, ideally speaking, you might obviously lose home games too, but the Lakers could find themselves in that position. What do you think, Oscar?
Well, I disagree. I think obviously having that advantage at home for those first two games and being up 2-0 is so, is such an advantage for the home team going away to LA for the Thunder. I think that it's such an advantage to be up 2-0, and I don't see the Thunder dropping one of the first games against the Lakers if they were to match up.
Just out of curiosity, who did Doncic versus in round 2 last year in the playoffs?
I was about to bring this up.
Who did Doncic versus round 2 in the playoffs? Was it the Thunder?
But
it was the Thunder.
OKC are a different team, though.
How are they a different team?
No,
Because they have a year more experience.
They've won 62 games, and you're saying, like, what are we doing?
But you're saying, like,
that's only 5 more games than last year. That's not like
the difference
a huge
between them
difference.
and the rest is like absurd, and that was the same case last season. And we've seen Luka Doncic go in there last. I'm not saying he's going to do the same for Lakers, but I'm saying he went in there and just dissembled them. Like
the Thunder have been absolutely on fire this season. So you think Thunder versus the Lakers, the Thunder are going to drop one of their first home games? Is that what you're saying, Luka?
Well, they did last year. The Mavericks ended up winning in 6, and they did last year. I don't see why they couldn't again. I think that personally, I think the Thunder could make the finals this year. But for me, I really still think that they are another year away from winning a championship. Like, they could make the finals, but I just think that the Lakers have a real shot at getting them when you look at who they actually have player for player. And I question, as have a lot of other people been recently, about Shea and how he's going to go in the playoffs, particularly with all the talk about free throws. He's got averaging 9 free throws a game, only behind Giannis, who everyone sort of is like, well, it's Giannis. But 9 free throws a game is a lot. And there's been a lot of discourse, particularly in NBA circles. We saw JB Bickerstaff have a good old rant after they versed the Thunder about the playoff whistle, about the fouls and the treatment that OKC get. And I question whether that's going to happen in a playoff series when you have the Lakers who have all of this star power.
But you don't think they're going to put the whistle away just just for round two?
But there's a difference in there's a playoff whistle has always been a thing. Like that is if you look at player statistics, like James Harden was the best example of it. The amount of free throws, I wish I had it in front of me right now. Maybe if one of you guys, Tyson or Ruben, want to look it up. James Harden free throws dipped in the playoffs. Like that was just a fact because referees ref the games differently. You don't get the same calls that you do in the regular season.
But at the end of the day, Shea's still going to go get his. Like he's still going to go get his 25, 30.
But so is Doncic as well.
Yeah, I know, but you say the whistle goes away. You know, Luka gets Luka pulls free throws as well, and so you're saying that Shea's numbers are going to drop that dramatically, that they're going to fall off this team's going to fall off a cliff. I just don't believe that it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen, but I think when you look at like players who perform well in the playoffs, like Tyson was saying before, like Luka historically, and although he still had a relatively young career, his numbers have skyrocketed in the playoffs. We saw him lead a team to the finals last year, and now he's playing with LeBron. And now he's got Austin Reeves as well. I think when you look at it, like the fact that I picked the Mavericks to make the finals and Doncic gets traded to the Lakers, I think that kind of de facto makes me having the Lakers to go to the finals, which is kind of ironic. But I think the Lakers have a really, really good chance to get there. And when you look at a matchup with them, I think that the Lakers, this could be one of those series where the stars are what matters. Because outside of Shea, OKC has a lot of good players, and maybe we could see the emergence of a Chet Holmgren, or J-Dub continues to keep it going. But I just think the Lakers have a really, really good shot against the Thunder in a round two matchup.
I just don't.
I think.
No, go.
I was just going back to your away argument, Luca. I'd be fine with it if Lakers started at home and they were away games 3 and 4. You warm up for the series, but like they're going to have to get going straight off the bat. And when you have like OKC well balanced home and away well, I think that away vulnerability could be a massive exposure for them if they drop both the games in the first two in the playoff series.
It's especially when the Lakers, and we know they're saying we're saying they're gonna step up in the playoffs, but especially when they're making this late in the season silly mistakes, and they're still having an issue with comebacks and you know having leads and the other team coming back. You know they lost to the Bulls twice, and one was a massive comeback from the Bulls that they were ahead. You don't lose to the Bulls this late in the season when your guys are back. You shouldn't be doing that. I'm obviously just using this game as an example, but obviously they do, yes, have a chance to beat OKC. However, OKC, they're not the Bulls. They are polished. They move the ball so well. Shea, you know, you can say what you want about his free throws, but he gets his. Every single game, he gets his. So.
But we've seen teams that have a star player that get theirs, but that sometimes works against them. Like that's how in Doncic's young career, the Clippers were able to beat him in 2 playoff series in back-to-back years. Doncic has had historically good numbers against those Clippers teams in the playoffs, but we still saw the Clippers win in 6 and in 7. I look at LeBron. Look, we get LeBron's old, but just for some context, NBA teams all time are 33 out of 447 series teams that go down 0-2 win. That's 7%. Okay, LeBron is 3 out of 8, which is 37%. Now, I get he's old, but I do not think you can just say a LeBron James-led team. I still believe in the locker room, it's a LeBron James-led team that goes down 0-2. We're just going to say, because it's hard for them to play on the road, like, it's going to be really difficult for them to come back. I just don't think we can just dismiss that.
It's going to be really difficult for they've lost 20 games this season away. Like it's going to, you know, yeah, they do have a good home record, but being down 2-0, as you said, is ridiculously hard to win that series.
It is, but if there's anyone who's been able to do it at least somewhat consistently, it's been him.
Especially when the Lakers this late in the season are still making silly mistakes. You know, LeBron's just come off an injury. Yeah, I get it.
Well, that's why you have round one. Particularly if it's going to be barbecue chicken against Memphis, like that could almost be a warm up for the Thunder.
It will be.
Yeah, I just don't see the Lakers beating the Thunder. Yeah, they do have a chance. Every team, I think, in the West has a chance, but I just see that the Thunder are so far ahead of everyone else in the
Listen,
West.
the one thing I will say is that the Lakers are 1-0 against Thunder this year. It was pre-Doncic. They played each other 2 times in the next week. Okay, that is going to be, I think, a real measuring stick. But one could make the argument, because OKC is so far ahead, maybe it doesn't have as much significance as we might think. But personally, if I'm the Thunder, I want to be beating the Lakers to prove a point for a potential playoff series. We'll see how those games go. We are going to switch over to the Eastern Conference, guys, because there are some, I don't know, depending on who you ask, maybe some sneaky teams. You know, there's some people out there that the Bulls see them on a hot streak and they're like, could they come from the 10 spot? You know, maybe make it into the 8 line and versus
No,
the Cavs in
Luka.
round 1. No, there's a few people saying that. There's a few people who's looking at the Detroit Pistons, you know, getting into it every night, having tripled their NBA win total from last season. And there's some people who just think that the Celtics are unbeatable and will probably make the finals again. So, look, as the standings are, the Cavs have a 4.5 game lead over the Celtics. And then from there, it seems like, to be honest, the top three and sort of the bottom 4, like from 7 to 10, is really set. It's really just the Pacers, Detroit, and the Bucks who have a 3 game difference between them. You can honestly even nearly rule the Bucks out of that after Damian Lillard is out for the season. So it really looks like the standings are set for the East, except for Pacers and Detroit, who have a 1.5 game difference between them, and the Hawks and Magic, who have half a game difference between them. I want to focus on the Pistons because they are such an interesting team, and no one really expected them to be where they are right now. Ruben, could you see the Pistons making a first round upset this year, likely against the Knicks or the Pacers?
It's really hard because Pistons have been in a really good form lately, and Cade Cunningham has been consistently really good. I think the East is competitive like the West, but it's different at the same time. I would put it similar to the Houston position where if they had a bit more experience, then I would maybe say an upset, but I think they are still a bit inexperienced. And like Tobias Harris, for example, is out at the moment with some injury. I don't know how long he's going to be out for, and Cade's got his health issues. I think if you have those two out, they're going to be in deep trouble. And I think the Knicks have got a really good team. Pacers got a really good team. I'm not going to eliminate it, but I just don't see it due to their playoff inexperience.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Knicks are would still win that series, but the Pistons can win games. The only thing I have about the Pistons is Cade's carrying a little calf injury, calf injuries tend to linger. I know he still is, unbelievably good, and he's having a crazy good season. But if they don't have him, they look like a very, very different team. If he were to miss 1 or 2 games, I don't know when he's going to come back if it lingers around for the first round. So I think the Knicks are too experienced, and yeah, I think the Knicks will win. It might be a good series though. It definitely Pistons could make it interesting.
I
They
would
definitely
love
have
a
the
Knicks Pistons round 1. I think that would be an
yeah.
awesome
I
series.
think it would be an awesome series.
Yeah, 100%. Just because, honestly, I mean, I would like a. I mean, when you really look at it, it's probably going to be the Bucks who face the Knicks. I think with Dame
Yeah.
out, I think that favors the Knicks.
Yeah,
Brunson's
yeah.
expected to come back off his injury as well. Pacers and Detroit, I think, is a really, really interesting series. A bit of a blast from the past, almost, to be completely honest with you. But Detroit is at least trying, or they have established an identity. You know, like they are a mean physical team. That's really going to make it hard on you. We saw a 7-player ejection tonight from both the Timberwolves and the Pistons. Like, they mean business. So I'm interested to see how they go. But ultimately, I want to know, Tyson, actually, what your thoughts on the Knicks are. I think you had them in the conference finals. I think a couple of us had them in the conference finals at the
Yeah.
start of the season.
Yeah.
They've sort of been a bit up and down, and it seems like the pieces they've acquired over the offseason, like re-signing Anunoby, having McHale there, it seems like it's not really paying off for them the way that they would, and I don't particularly like them in a second round matchup against Boston at this point. What are your thoughts on their season?
Look, I think when they made those acquisitions, I think they were picturing themselves a solid look for 2 seed behind the Celtics. Like, they were like, "Cool, this is it. Celtics take the first one, we'll go second, boom." Obviously not worked in our favor. Um, few players just being so consistent at being inconsistent, showing up at just the weirdest times, Like, what, two of them put up triple doubles with Hart and someone else, Cat?
Yeah, Cat.
And then the next day, Cat will go and give you 10 points, something like that. So it's definitely interesting, the Knicks situation. But if they were if they were versing the Pistons, I'd still take the Knicks. But yeah, Knicks are in a really tough situation. Like, first round, they'll be fine, but then second round, I think that's really, you don't want to see the Celtics. So
The thing I'm going to say about the Knicks is, compared to last year, yeah, they made their team, on paper, it looks better, their team, but I think they've lost, if you look at the hype that they were getting last season compared to, not much hype this season in terms of, around their name and around them winning games and things like that. I feel like they've lost a bit of their, character in a way that they've just lost. You had Brunson making all these crazy plays, and everyone was like, "This guy's the next, whatever," and the Mavericks suck for getting rid of him, which they do. But I just think they've lost a bit of that character with their new acquisitions. So I don't know. As T-Man said, you got people balling out, but it's inconsistently, and they'll drop 10 the next day, and then they'll drop 30, and I just don't think that's going to be good heading into the playoffs being like that. And obviously, Jalen Brunson at the minute, he's got this little ankle injury. I think he's going to be back before the playoffs, but that could linger around as well. I just think they've lost a bit of character this season, so I don't love them heading into the playoffs. I did pick them. I did pick them making the conference finals, but I don't see that anymore. This late into the season.
Look, I think if it wasn't for Cleveland, New York would still be the second seed. Like, you look at their conference record, they're 31-14, and then that would make them 16-13 against the Western Conference team. So when you look at the Eastern matchups, they've actually done relatively well. And look, I know they haven't done as well as some people have said, but they still have a lot of star power. So then when you get in a 7-game series, like, if you have one or two players not doing well, like, you still have 2 or 3 others that can step up. Like I was telling Luca the other day, Josh Hart has been really impressive for this Knicks team, like, solidifying his role. And I don't know how the trade went through, but like, it looked like the Knicks full on robbed the Trailblazers with that. So I just think, like, if they play the Celtics in the second round, they'll be in trouble. But if they can somehow match up in the conference finals, I definitely still think they can get there.
Yeah, look, last year I was in love with the Knicks, and I think a part of that was for reasons Oscar was stating, is they sort of had that identity, they had a bit of swag, like, it was like,
Hitting
New
big
York
shots,
is, like, New York is back. You had Hart making big time hustle plays, Brunson was cooking everyone who was in front of him. Like, they were sort of really, really making people believe in New York again. And I think, and I said this in our very first episode of the season, I still think I picked the Knicks to make the conference finals just because I didn't believe in the depth that the East had. But I just thought that this team got too overhyped. And I think we've sort of seen that now because they made the huge trade for Bridges, and, they got OG back on a new deal. They were like, we're so much better now. They got Cat there. They got Randall out. A lot of people, including myself, didn't like Randall as a fit on that team. And if I'm being honest, my thoughts on the Knicks right now, the Knicks right now, is they could put it together, okay? And I need you guys to hear me out. I think that the Knicks need to find their Steve Kerr, because I don't think they are going to be as good the ceiling like those Warriors teams, but I think from a coaching perspective, I simply don't think Tibbs is getting enough out of these players. And I think Tibbs is a really, really good coach, but we've seen in the past he has gone from job to job to job because he hasn't been able to get those teams over the hump. From the Derrick Rose Bulls teams to the Jimmy team in Minnesota, now it's here to New York. We've seen a constant theme with Tibbs, and he's really, really good until a point. And I feel like the Knicks' ceiling is kind of capped at the conference finals. Some would even say Game 7 of Round 2 with him as their coach, depending on the opponent. And if I'm the Knicks, I am trying to find my Steve Kerr to replace my Mark Jackson, who I think is Tibbs in this case. And I think they have the pieces, in my opinion at least. I think they have the pieces. You could maybe argue they're a bit too similar to Boston with going with the two wing players. But when you look at their experience, guys, Brunson has had, if anything, the least experience. You've got Cats made it to a conference finals. OG and Michaela both played an NBA finals series. And then you have Hart and Brunson. And even Brunson made it to the conference finals with Dallas. Obviously, he wasn't as established as he was now. But this team actually has a lot of experience. So really, playing in the playoffs shouldn't be a problem, but I think it's the fit of how they fit in the playoffs. And I don't think Tibbs is the right coach to unlock that fit. Anyone's thoughts on that?
Rubes, you look like you can
Yeah, I actually don't disagree with that because people have had their criticism of Tibbs like overplaying players and everything, and just sometimes the rotations and the trust in the bench. I think if they struggle against the Celtics, and everyone's going to look at last season, and especially the players are performing well, they might look at the coaching and go, "We might need a new coach, like a change of scenery." So I think the Knicks are a really good team, like Lucas said, and I really like the pieces around them. But I think if they don't perform well in the playoffs, then I think I agree a coaching change could be necessary.
Because these pieces are for this. Like, you look, OG and McHale is literally there just to defend JB and JT, right? You get Cat, right? He's a stretch player. He can play the 4, he can play the 5, he can guard Porzingis out in the wing. He's there as well. And then you have Brunson, who you build your sort of team around. And then you have Josh Hart, who's kind of like your Derek White, Drew Holiday sort of piece of that. Like, it just seems like at this point, they are just a slightly worse version than the Celtics. But player for player, if everyone executes their role, I don't see why they couldn't take the Celtics in a 7-game series. But I don't think they can do it now, just with the way that they're playing and with the way that I think they're being coached.
Yeah, I agree. I just think the Celtics, the Celtics formula of just shoot, score, and then the onslaught of points that they put on. I think it's just so hard to get anywhere near beating that team, especially in a 7-game series when they just batter you for 4 games straight. I don't think the Knicks, as you said, it might be a coaching change, but I just don't see them beating the Celtics right now, as you said either. So,
do you think anyone can beat the Celtics? Like, are we going to lock the Celtics to make the finals, Oscar?
I think the Cavs. I think the Cavs can do it. I know you said they were going to be disappointing this season, which might be the worst take you've ever had, Luca.
Well, they still can. Hey, it's not too late. It's not too late. It's not too late for that to happen. All right.
But the Cavs. I think the Cavs can do it. They are a very, very, very good team, very well coached team, and I think they can take down the Celtics. They've done it this season once. I think they're 1-1 with the Celtics this season.
I want to say yes. I know they beat them in Boston when they went down 27-2 to start the game.
I think they lost. I think they lost.
I know Boston. It depends if they played a third game or not. Because I know Boston beat them in Cleveland.
Anyways, I do think the Cavs can take down the Celtics. I think it's going to be extremely difficult to do, and there's a lot has to go their way. But I think the Cavs, out of any team, are the ones that can do it.
2-1, Oscar. The Celtics are this season. Okay. Sorry, the Cavs are this season.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, look, I think Celtics are a lock. I think their odds should be suspended.
Do you just think they are going to smoke the Cavs though, or do you think it's going to be like the Cavs are going to bring it to 7 games if they were to match up in a conference final?
I don't think 7. I'd give them 6 potentially. Like Kristaps just came back and he's dropping 24 and 12. Like he's come back 24, 26, 27, and then a 30 bomb. Like the whole lineup is all stars, and then they're all two-way players. Like it's just such a well-built team. Their whole ideology of running their basketball is just so successful, and they've shown through the playoff history, like experience, that they can get it done against whoever.
But you look at like the matchup with the Cavs and the Celtics, and you just talked about Porzingis. I think the Cavs match up extremely well against the Celtics in terms of defenders to offensive players. I think that Mobley can guard Kristaps. Mobley's an elite defender, and I think he can put a lid on Kristaps, and then they found a way to win two games out of the 3 they've played this season, and I think they can definitely do that in the playoffs, especially if they had home games first.
Look, I think even if you put a lid on Kristaps, like who's guarding Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown?
But they've done it before. They've done it this
we've
season.
Also seen games like Derek White and Peyton Pritchard had like 19 threes between them.
They dropped 40. Like it's just too many.
I just don't think I can say that it's a lock that the Celtics are going through to the finals when the Cavs have won 60 games.
It's just like you try and cancel one player out, and then the next one's right up there. Like it just fills in the spot like nothing ever happened. Like,
when you win 80% of your regular, like I know you say what you want about regular season and playoffs, it does matter. You won 80% of your games. I don't think it's going to be a Celtics like wash like we've seen in the past. I mean, the Cavs are extremely well coached, and they can beat the Celtics as we have seen.
Just as an aside, another team which won 60 games and was a 1 seed about 10 years ago, Oscar? 2014-15 Atlanta Hawks, all right? That's where I'm going with this, all right? So, look, I agree with you, but I don't think it's a lock. I also don't think the Celtics are as good as LeBron, but I think we can't... I think just because you have a really good regular season team, and I've talked before about regular season teams versus playoff teams, I don't think we can... Maybe we can say they're not a lock because of it, but if I'm right now, I'm taking Celtics to beat the Cavs in a playoff series. I don't know if you are as well, Oscar. You might not be as convinced by that as I am, and maybe Tyson is. I'm not sure about Ruben. But I think, going back to my previous take, the Cavs have kind of done, in a way, what I said the Knicks need to do. Like, they were, the 4-5, like, the past few years, they were sort of first round, second round exits, and now they've gone Kenny Atkinson. He seems to be that guy, and now they've put themselves in real contention. I just don't, and I think the only real way you beat the Celtics is if it is a coaching thing. Because last year, it was really the same roster, which is why I picked them to be a disappointing team, because I think they need to upgrade, and they did upgrade. It was just on the sidelines and not on the court necessarily. But you look at these playoff games last year, they lost by 25, they lost by 25 points, they lost the next game by 13 points, they lost by 17 points, and lost by 25 points again. When they versed Celtics in round 2 last year, they did have the one game 2 in Boston where they ended up smoking the Celtics by 24 points. But overall, the playoff series last year wasn't close. And the only way I see them having a real chance against the Celtics is if it's a coaching thing.
Yeah, but you've lost on the fact that players can just get better, and that's what the Cavs have done. They've got in Kenny, who seems to be the right fit for them, and the players have just gotten better. And they've gotten better as a team, and they've gotten better at defending, and they've gotten better at their offensive game, and they can hit shots.
But when you look at most championship teams, okay, it's usually either because the coaching has changed or there's been a significant change in the playoffs, in the player acquisitions, right? Like some teams, I guess. But not really. Like most teams really it might not be a star acquisition, but you look at the Nuggets, for example. Obviously, Jokic got better. Obviously, Jamal Murray got better. But you look at someone like Aaron Gordon, who was an absolute glue guy for that team, and he was the difference, I believe, in those Lakers playoff series. When you look at those ways that Denver was able to advance, get to the NBA Finals. Same thing when I talk about the Warriors. They were good, and Steph and Clay got better, but they started winning when Steve Kerr came in and was the coach. Like, same thing for the Bucks. They traded for Drew Holiday. They won a championship. You know, Giannis was already good, but you usually have something, either the coaching changes or there's some big significance in the players change that sort of go hand in hand with a team getting over the hump.
Yeah, and they've gone out. They've got a good coach that's brought them from 48 wins to 60. And they've gotten extremely better as a team, and I don't see the Celtics just having their way with the Cavs like they have in the past.
I just want to know, I guess a bit more of a side. Do you think, Oscar, that Donovan Mitchell can be the best player on a championship team?
Yeah, of course.
Do you all agree with that, or am I the only one that doesn't?
No, I don't agree.
Ruben, why don't you agree?
Look, all I'll say is that, like, it's not like the Western Conference where OKC are 13.5 games in front of the 2 seed. They're only 4.5 games in front. In their last 10, they're 5-5. And they've had their vulnerabilities in the past. And this team, like Luca was talking about the Atlanta Hawks being a 1 seed. This team, ironically, reminds me of the Utah Jazz. Because they were the 1 seed. Both times Donovan Mitchell was the best player. And they couldn't get past the second round. So I think this is very applicable when Darius Garland and Jared Allen, as the 2 or 3, have seen their insecurities in their playoffs.
We've seen them this season not lose. We've seen them just not lose for months. And you're saying that the Celtics are going to come in and beat them in 6 games. I just can't see that.
Hey, listen.
But that was the same with the Utah Jazz, and they still lost in the second round.
Yeah, they lost to a Clippers team that didn't have Kawhi for the last 2 games, all right? So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it about 1 seeds, all right? 1 seeds are there. 1 seeds get beaten all the time, okay?
Biggest fallacy, yeah.
1 seed get beaten all the time. Listen, Jared Allen told us last year after their playoff exits, you know, he said the lights were a bit brighter than I expected. So I think the Cavs, I like Kenny Atkinson. A part of me just feels like they're just a little bit too soft. I just feel like they're a little bit soft.
Do you think they're going to make the conference finals?
Yes, because I think it's a 2-horse race. I don't think Detroit or Indiana is going to beat them in a playoff series. No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I think that, and that's why I'm asking, are the Celtics a lock? Because really, I don't see who's going to beat them. I just don't. I think they are. I think they're a lock. I think I'm happy to write them in now. They're like.
I think they're a lock.
I think the Celtics are going to. I think they're going to win. I just don't think it's. You guys are just saying it's a lock.
Yeah, you would have it go in 7 games.
Chuck all your money on it. I'm not like you can't convince me to sell my house and chuck it on the Celtics right now.
You would have it go in 7 or like a close 6, like
I have it going 6 or 7 closely. Very closely.
Okay. Listen, I just think the Celtics, like, you just look at what they have, and look, we might have to get into this in a later episode, but they're going to have some problems with the cap after this season with the way they've signed all these players to big deals. We sort of talked about it a little bit last year because it was sort of how, like, the Clippers got cooked by it, and they had to end up not being able to sign both Kawhi and Paul George, which ended up working out better for them. But the Celtics, the Celtics' likelihood aren't going to be able to keep their core 4 after this season because of how they've signed players to deals, how the cap works. So I really think that they're really going to be pushing. And also for a bit of history, it's been 7 years since we've had a back-to-back champion. I believe it's 7 years, I think, since the Warriors did it. But, guys, I do want to transition to the Final Four, because that's where we're going to end this episode, okay, for our college fans out there. I actually just want to go through at the start. I will be the first to say I have Michigan State taking out the Natty. They got knocked out today. I wanted to go for something, you know, not too out there, but something that could realistically happen. I know Tyson's team, to be revealed, is still in currently. Oscar, who did you have in the beginning winning the Natty, if they're still in or if they're not in?
Oh, in the beginning,
Yeah.
I had Michigan taking it out, the Big M,
Okay, Rubes?
for no particular reason.
Well, for me, it was between Houston or Duke, but I had Duke just because of Cooper Flag. That was it. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of NCAA, but Cooper Flag is a different animal.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, we're here now. We got Houston Duke and we got Florida and Auburn. And it's the first time since 2007 that all 4 1 seeds have made the Final Four. And funnily
That's
enough,
crazy.
it was also held in San Antonio. Now, Tyson, as you
Everyone-
also have your national champion in your bracket still, who are you picking to advance to the national championship game and then win the national championship?
Okay. So before all the March Madness started, I had Houston winning it all. But matching up against Duke, um, matching up against Duke, uh, I can't step back on it. I have to stay with my word Houston, but it's not going to be a pretty game. I
They've
would
won
say.
some close games though. If they can
They
keep
have,
it
they
close,
They can keep it close, but that damn Duke team is
yeah,
pretty damn
it's
good.
pretty good.
Pretty good
Um,
Duke team.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think Duke's going to take it as well. I think they just look too good. They just look too good. Cooper Flag is a freak, as Ruben said.
Tyrese Proctor, Con Knuckle, you got everyone, bro.
Yeah.
That ball was over there.
Pricey, you've got someone different though.
And my boy Emilio
I've-
Stroud.
What are
I've
you
got-
whipping up over there?
I've got someone different. Listen, look, originally, like I said,
Florida.
Michigan State. Look, I actually got my statistics wrong. You know, very rare because I had something cooking because, you know, in 2007 the Final Four was actually held in Georgia, not San Antonio, and in 2007 the Florida Gators won the national championship. But now, taking into account in 2008 was actually when San Antonio Final Four was. I'm still not changing my pick because I think Florida is going to take it home. Tyson, you're right. I think, look, they got some ballers, okay? They got some ballers. And while I am not the biggest college basketball fan, okay, I saw something in that last game. I watched that Texas Tech game. You know, Walter Clayton Jr. had an absolute masterclass, all right? Thomas Howe, I don't know exactly how you say his name. He came down clutch off the stretch on the bench. And I just think that they are a program which has won the title recently. They're a program with pedigree. And I think Auburn is good, but I think that Florida, in a close game, I think they are going to have the best players on the court.
What, and
Now-
then they're going to go on and beat Duke? Or?
Yeah, well, listen.
Or
I-
Houston team, man, or Houston.
Well, listen. Personally, I have them. I have them against Duke in the Natty, and you know why? I would love to see my boy Tyrese Proctor, win a national title. Our fellow Australian. I just think that, and I don't know why I've sort of had this belief, but I've always just sort of been down on like power, like blue blood programs recently because I feel like, especially when Zion was playing for Duke, everyone was like, "Oh my god, like they're gonna win the Natty!" Like they have so much star power, this and that, and I think Duke maybe this year I kind of overlooked them because they actually do have a lot of other players in veteran roles, like Proctor being one of them as a junior, but they seem to actually flow really well. And although Cooper Flag is the star player, like everyone has their own sort of identity on that team, and you look at when you got Knipple in as well, Malawak in the middle, he is a freak athletic big man, they got good freshmen, they got a very well-balanced roster, but I still think that those teams in recent memory, when it comes to the biggest games, you see a team like a Florida Gators, they're 34-4 on the season. You see them with their veteran players come in, make some big shots. And sometimes we see teams like Duke, who are extremely talented, end up losing in the end.
Yeah, fair enough.
So,
mean-
listen, I was sort of zoned out for a second. Does anyone have Houston beating Duke in the second Final Four game? No? Tyson does?
T-Man's sticking with them.
I have to stick with them. I
T-Man's
can't
sticking
switch
with
up
them.
now.
He's sticking with them. Okay, that's good. Look,
Can't switch up now.
Houston's been knocking on the door, T, for a while. Like, you know,
Yeah,
they
no,
have had
they
several number one seeded seasons, and they keep falling just
Had
short.
a big win last game as
They
well.
did. They had a really good play at the end of that game, which sealed that. So I think it'll be interesting, but I guess we'll see. The Final Four starts soon. We will all be watching. But guys, that is all for Priceless Takes episode 74. Thank you for joining with us again. We will be doing our best to continue to come on weekly. I'm also trying to plan another NFL episode and also stay in touch because I'm also planning some other sports. I've had a lot of requests for some NRL content. I've had a lot of requests for some AFL content as our Australian fan base starts to grow. So it's going to be a combination of the people you see on your TV screen right now or your phone, wherever you're watching this. Also a combination of some new people who you haven't heard of. So we're going to try diversify the Priceless Takes platform a little bit over the next coming months to really suit what you guys want. But to do that, make sure you keep following us on our social media. We're on Instagram and on TikTok and on YouTube/Spotify, depending on which platform you are watching, at the handle at Priceless Takes. I will put it in the description below. But until then, thank you to my three lovely panelists for being insightful as always. I cannot wait to see how the next week of NBA basketball turns out as we head into the playoffs.
Thanks,
you.
Luca.
All right, that is all for Priceless Takes, episode 74. I am your host, Luca Price, and we will see you next time.